think that retention at 90 days or for 6 months would be a lot harder than at 7 days or 14 days. But after being on this journey for a couple of years, I feel differently about it. And this may be a controversial one, you may not agree with it, but I just kind of want to give you something to think about. I think that, imagine if you haven't gotten there yet, imagine that you're at 180 days, which is roughly 6 months. Just imagine that you have that much energy stored. I imagine that you wouldn't be too quick to release that energy because you have too much to lose. There's a lot more to value there. Now, compare that to retaining for, let's say, 14 days. That's not a whole lot of days retained. Like for the average guy out there who doesn't do retention, or who doesn't practice it, or someone who's maybe new to retention, 14 days is a huge accomplishment. Something to be proud of. But if you're like me and you've been on this journey for a while, whenever I get to 14 days, 7 days, or even 21 days, I'm just not moved by it. And it feels like more of a pattern. Like it's like, okay, I keep hitting these 2-week streaks, these 1-week streaks, these 3-week streaks, and it just doesn't really faze me that much. And like I said before, there's not a whole lot of energy to value. There's not a whole lot of energy retained. But once you get to 90 days or 180 days, I don't think you'll be too quick to, scroll on Instagram or do any kind of peeking or do anything that's going to tempt you into releasing this energy. Like physically, yes, it's going to be harder. Like I don't think getting to 6 months or a year, if you're going to accomplish something like that, it's going to be a walk in the park. I don't want to put that out there like that. I think it still requires a different level of discipline and a different lifestyle, if you will, to get to that point. But I think psychologically, it'll be easier for the simple fact that you're going to value it a lot more. Let's say you spent, $400 on a pair of like white Nikes or something like that. Like if I spent that much on a pair of shoes, like white Nikes, I'm probably going to buy some shoe cleaner and I probably would clean it every day and I would probably take care of it, as opposed to buying a $20 pair of shoes from Walmart. I'm probably not going to take care of it as much because I didn't spend that much on it. So, in the same way, I think the more that we retain, the more that we will actually value this energy. And the things that we value in life, we tend to be more mindful of, we tend to cherish it more. So that's why I say it'll be easier once you kind of get, not just to 90 days. I think every one of us has a certain threshold. And I know for me, it's not 2 weeks, it's not 3 weeks. For me, maybe once I get to 60 days, I'll actually start to value this energy. Because every time I kind of get to 2 or 3 weeks, like I said, I'm not impressed by it. And another reason why I think retention gets easier the longer you go is because I think at 7 days or 14 days, that gap between the time that you relapse, the time that you're actually retaining, is a lot smaller than it would be like at 180 days or 90 days. The gap is a lot smaller. And the more that you do it, the more that you release, the more that you want to release. And the more addicted you get to stimulation, it just gets a lot harder to, it gets a lot harder to get out of that hole where you're just kind of like stuck in lower consciousness and you're just addicted to all this stimulation, because it's a lot of dopamine in just a short amount of time. A fleeting moment is what it is. Like, retention has just been a pain in the ass lately. I hit that 4-month streak one time. That was like in early 2025. And I have not been able to get anywhere close to that since then. This is why I feel like it seems harder. I actually was talking to another guy who was kind of like in the same boat as me. He was able to retain for 4 months. I think he did it once, and since then he's been having so much trouble, relapsing every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. He might get a 30-day streak somewhere in there, but neither one of us has gotten close to that. And he was just asking me why. I couldn't even tell him, because I don't really know his journey. I don't really know all of his struggles. So, I wasn't really able to answer that for him. But I just wonder if, those of you who are having trouble retaining past 3 weeks, like, if you really think about it, like, how much do you actually value the energy? Like, once you hit the 2 weeks, especially if you've done it so many times, I don't know, I'm just so used to it. You become so accustomed to stimulation when you're relapsing every week or every 2 weeks. I don't even know what it feels like to retain for 90 days or for 4 months. I don't know what that feels like anymore. It's been so long since I've gotten there. So, because of these relapses I've been having, it's just become my new normal. I've become accustomed, to the stimulation again. And it's kind of hard to, the more you do it, you kind of go deeper and deeper to that hole, and it's kind of hard to kind of pull yourself out, So, that's how I feel about it, So, I think you need some really good momentum before you can get to a point where you won't be so quick to just release the energy. Like I said, it's still going to have its challenges once you get to those higher streaks. It's still going to require an immense amount of discipline on your part. But once you get there, like I say, you have a lot more to lose. So I just kind of want you to ponder on that. How many days of retention would you have to be on for you to actually take it seriously, for you to actually value that sexual energy? For you, maybe that number is 30 days. Maybe once you hit the 30 days, you'll actually start to value it as much. But yeah, every time I get to a week or 2 weeks, and I've been having these cycles, like I said, I'm not really affected by it. It's kind of like Groundhog's Day, okay, this is a pattern, and I think in my mind, I expect myself to release at some point. Because I haven't been able to go beyond 3 weeks in a while. It's been a while since I'm able to go beyond that point. So, I hope that helps you kind of reframe this journey. It just depends on how much you value that energy. what that streak count is for you to get to the point where you actually start to value that energy. The point where you feel like, okay, you have too much to lose. That's the point you want to get to. So it may require a lot more discipline at the beginning. It may require a lot more willpower. Whatever it is, it takes you to get past that threshold. I think that's the part where it requires a lot more discipline. A different kind of discipline that's required to maintain a 3-month streak once you get there. It just requires something different at the beginning. But I hope this video has helped you in a way. And if you've been having trouble getting past 2 or 3 weeks, or even getting past a week, maybe having this reframe will kind of help you move to different heights, to move beyond your regular streak.